Imagine you are 3 miles straight down at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. The pressure here is crushing, over 7,000 pounds per square inch. It is pitch black, freezing cold. For humans, it is an alien world. But right now, in the dark, a massive robotic claw the size of a football field is slowly descending from the surface, preparing to grab a 3,000-ton nuclear submarine. This is not a scene from a science fiction movie. This is the true story of the most audacious, expensive, and completely insane engineering heist in human history. Stay for the next minutes, and you will see exactly how you steal a Soviet submarine right from under their noses, using technology that shouldn't have existed in the 1970s. The story begins in 1968. A Soviet ballistic missile submarine, the K-129, suddenly sank somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. The Soviets sent a massive fleet to find it, but the ocean is vast, and eventually they gave up. But the United States had a secret network of underwater microphones. They heard the explosion. They knew exactly where it was. There was just one problem. The submarine was resting 16,000 feet below the surface, 3 miles deep. To put that into perspective, if you drop the tallest building in the world into that trench, you would need to stack 5 more on top of it just to break the surface. At that time, no one had ever recovered anything from that depth. The engineering math was brutal. If you try to lower a standard steel cable 3 miles down to pull up a 3,000-ton steel tube, the cable will snap under its own weight before it even reaches the bottom. You cannot use cables. You cannot send human divers. So how do you pull it up? The CIA realized they needed a completely new type of machine. But building a giant, unprecedented recovery ship would obviously alert the Soviets. They needed a cover story, and they needed a frontman. Enter Howard Hughes, an eccentric billionaire, aviator, and engineer. Hughes publicly announced he was building a revolutionary new ship called the Glomar Explorer. Its stated mission? To mine manganese nodules, valuable rocks, from the deep ocean floor. The press loved it. The Soviets believed it. It looked like a quirky billionaire's vanity project. But it was all a lie. If we look past the exterior of the Glomar Explorer, we find the real machine. The ship was actually built around a massive, hidden set of doors in its hull, enclosing an area called the Moon Pool. It was essentially a floating dry dock, designed to swallow a submarine from below so no one, satellites, spy planes, or passing ships, could see what they pulled up. But the ship was just the delivery system. The real genius was how they reached the bottom. Since a wire cable would snap, CIA engineers borrowed an idea from the oil industry, a rigid pipe string. They manufactured hundreds of 60-foot sections of heavy-duty steel pipe. A massive derrick on the ship would screw one pipe into another, slowly lowering the mechanism foot by foot, mile by mile, toward the ocean floor. At the very end of this 3-mile-long steel straw was the capture vehicle, codenamed Clementine. Clementine was a masterpiece of mechanical engineering. It was a giant claw equipped with sonar, floodlights, and heavy mechanical arms designed to perfectly wrap around the hull of the Soviet submarine. But here is where the physics gets truly insane. The ocean surface is not still. There are massive waves, winds, and currents. If the ship on the surface moves even a few feet, a 3-mile-long rigid pipe will bend, snap, and destroy the entire mission. To solve this, engineers invented a system called dynamic positioning. Using an array of thrusters on the bottom of the ship, controlled by incredibly advanced early computers processing sonar signals from the ocean floor, the Glomar Explorer could keep itself perfectly still. It hovered over a single spot with a margin of error of less than a few feet, completely ignoring the ocean currents. They had the machine. They had the cover story. In the summer of 1974, they sailed to the target. This is where things went wrong. When the Glomar Explorer arrived at the site, the tension was absolute. Soviet spy ships, suspicious of the mining operation, actually sailed right up to the American vessel. Soviet sailors were literally standing on their decks, watching the Glomar, completely unaware that 3 miles directly beneath them, the CIA was grabbing their lost nuclear submarine. Clementine touched down in the dark. The mechanical arms engaged. The grip was secure. Slowly, agonizingly, the ship began to pull the 3,000-ton prize upward, one pipe section at a time. Hours turned into days. They were actually doing it. But the deep ocean is an unforgiving environment. When the submarine was about a mile away from the surface, disaster struck. The manganese steel used to build the claw's arms had become brittle in the freezing temperatures of the deep Pacific. Under the immense stress of the load, 2 of the mechanical arms fractured and snapped. The K-129 broke apart. A massive section of the submarine slipped from the claw's grasp and plummeted backward, falling all the way down to the ocean floor. The CIA only managed to recover the forward section of the sub. The most valuable prizes, the nuclear missiles and the cryptography room, were lost forever in the deep. Project Azorian was classified as a partial failure by intelligence agencies. But as an engineering achievement, it is one of the greatest leaps in human history. Look at the offshore oil and gas industry today. Every modern deep-water drilling rig relies on dynamic positioning, the exact computer-controlled thruster technology invented to steal that submarine. The pipe string methods developed for Clementine pioneered modern deep-sea extraction. The CIA spent the equivalent of $4 billion modern dollars, not just to steal secrets, but to hack the laws of physics at extreme depths. We often think of history as something static, but the truth is, the most impossible engineering feats are usually born in the dark, driven by necessity, and disguised as something entirely ordinary. So, if you were the chief engineer of the CIA today, what impossible machine would you build to retrieve the rest of that sub? Let me know your engineering strategy in the comments. If this deep dive changed your perspective on what humans are capable of, subscribe to Timecraft and hit the bell. We analyze the greatest lost technologies and engineering mysteries every single week. This is Timecraft, where history meets precision.